The crystalline halls of Vexstar Prime gleamed under 3 suns. 12 species had gathered here, representatives of the Galactic Dominion Council. They came to discuss many things, but today's most entertaining topic was humanity. Ambassador Chen Wei stood in the center of the chamber. He was a patient man, trained in diplomacy for 30 years. His gray suit looked plain compared to the exotic clothing and armor of the alien delegates around him. He held a small data device in his hand, containing humanity's application for Dominion membership. "Honored council members," Chen began, his voice steady, "humanity seeks to join the Galactic Dominion. We offer friendship, trade, and cooperation. Our species has achieved faster-than-light travel, established 3 successful colony worlds, and developed technologies we believe will benefit all." A booming laugh interrupted him. It came from War Master Throkanal, the military commander of the Zarkith Empire. The Zarkith were tall, heavily muscled beings with dark red skin and 4 arms. They had conquered 17 worlds through pure military might. "Technologies?" Throkanal's voice dripped with amusement. "Show us these wonderful human technologies." Chen pressed a button on his device. Holographic images appeared in the air, showing human starships, defense stations, and weapon systems. The council members leaned forward to look. Then they started laughing. "These are your warships?" asked Veltheri, the trade prince of the merchant species, his snake-like body coiled with mirth. "They look like cargo haulers with guns attached. The biggest ship carries only 50 fighters," added General Crix of the Insectoid Hive Collective. "Our scout vessels carry more than that." Throkanal stood up, his forearms spreading wide. "Let me show you something, little human." He activated his own hologram. A massive Zarkith battleship appeared, dwarfing the human vessels in the display. "This is one patrol ship. We have 10,000 of these. Your entire fleet could not defeat a single border patrol." The council chamber filled with clicking, hissing, and various sounds that passed for laughter among the different species. Chen's face remained calm, but his jaw tightened slightly. "We did not come here to compare military strength," Chen said quietly. "We came to offer partnership. Partnership." Counselor Veshener of the ancient Luminari species spoke for the first time. Her crystalline form pulsed with light. "What could humanity possibly offer us? You have 3 small worlds. Your economy is barely worth a single trading sector. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Your species has only been in space for 73 years, added another counselor. Most Dominion species had mastered interstellar travel before they developed written language. Chen took a deep breath. He had expected resistance, but not this level of contempt. "We are a young species, yes, but we learn quickly. We adapt. You are children playing with toys you barely understand," Throkanal interrupted again. He walked closer to Chen, towering over the human ambassador. "Here is the council's decision. Humanity is rejected for membership. You may reapply in 500 standard years. Perhaps by then, you will have caught up to galactic standards." 500 years? Chen's composure finally cracked. "Our people need access to Dominion trade routes, medical knowledge, and your people need to stay in their small corner of space," Belthari said smoothly. "You currently occupy 3 systems. That is your limit. Any expansion beyond those 3 systems will be considered aggressive colonization. And the Dominion deals harshly with aggressive species. Is that a threat?" Chen asked, his voice hardening. "It is a fact," Throkanal replied, grinning. "Go fact backed by 10,000 battleships, human. Remember that when you return to your little blue world, the vote was called. All 12 species voted to reject humanity. The decision was unanimous." Chen gathered his materials slowly, deliberately. He refused to show them how much their mockery hurt. As he walked toward the chamber exit, a small figure approached him. It was Ambassador Lyra of the Keth, a minor species that held only 1 seat on the council. She barely reached Chen's shoulder, her fur-covered form trembling slightly. "Ambassador Chen," she whispered, glancing around nervously. "A word of warning." Chen stopped and looked down at her. "Yes, the council does this to all new species. They reject them, they mock them, but then—" She paused, her large eyes showing genuine concern. "Then they test them. They send raiders to your borders. They create incidents. They want to see how you respond. Please, tell your leaders to watch your borders carefully. Before Chen could respond, Lyra hurried away. Disappearing into the crowd of delegates, Chen left Vexstar Prime on the human diplomatic shuttle. As the crystalline world shrank behind him, he activated his secure communication link to Earth. "Admiral Okonkwo," he said to the screen, where a dark-skinned woman in a military uniform appeared. "They rejected us, completely, and I believe they intend to test our defenses." Admiral Sarah Okonkwo had commanded Earth's defense forces for 8 years. Her expression didn't change, but Chen saw the flash of anger in her eyes. "Did they threaten us directly?" she asked. "They implied it. 3 systems maximum," they said. "Any expansion will be met with force." Chen rubbed his temples. "They laughed at our ships, Sarah. They think we're primitives playing with technology we don't understand." Okonkwo leaned back in her chair. Behind her, through the window of her Earth-based office, the lights of Geneva glowed in the evening darkness. "Let them think that," she said quietly. "Let them believe we're weak. Meanwhile, I'm going to call an emergency session of the Defense Committee. If they test us, they're going to learn something important." "What's that?" Chen asked. Okonkwo's smile was cold. "That humanity has been testing ourselves for thousands of years, and we're very good at it." The transmission ended. Chen sat alone in his shuttle, thinking about what was coming. He thought about Earth's history, the endless wars, the constant struggles. Humanity had fought itself for millennia before reaching the stars. Maybe the Galactic Dominion should have asked themselves a simple question. What kind of species fights its way off its own planet and still manages to survive? They were about to find out. They mocked humanity. Then a single Terran fleet burned their armadas. Part 2. The testing grounds. 6 months had passed since the Council's rejection. Life continued on Earth and its 3 colony worlds. But tension hung in the air like an approaching storm. The storm broke on a Tuesday morning, Earth Standard Time. "This is Colony Administrator Park on New Harmony." The transmission crackled with static. "We are under attack. Repeat, we are under attack. Multiple, unidentified ships entering orbit. They're firing on our defense platforms." Admiral Sarah Okonkwo was in a strategy meeting when the message arrived. She immediately ordered it played on the main screen. Every officer in the room went silent as they listened. "They're broadcasting something," Administrator Park's voice continued, fear creeping in. "It's in multiple languages. They claim we violated territorial boundaries. They say this is a border enforcement action." "But Admiral, we haven't left our system. We haven't done anything." Then the transmission cut to static. Okonkwo's hands clenched into fists. Around the table, her senior staff looked at her, waiting for orders. She pulled up the system map. New Harmony was humanity's newest colony, home to 50,000 settlers. Most of them were families. "Identification on the attacking ships," she demanded. "Zarkath Raiders, Admiral," replied Commander Hassan, the intelligence officer. 6 vessels. They matched the profile of War Master Throkanul's Border Patrol fleet. "Border Patrol," Okonkwo said bitterly. "We're 3 systems away from their territory. This isn't Border Patrol. This is the test Ambassador Chen warned us about."
Ow.
She stood up and walked to the window. Below, the lights of Geneva sparkled in the night. Somewhere up there, beyond the clouds and the stars, people were dying. Human people. Her people. "What are our options?" asked General Torres, commander of the Colonial Defense Force. "The CDF. Ships near New Harmony can't match 6 Zarkath Raiders," Hassan said, checking his datapad. "They have 2 corvettes and a frigate. The Raiders outgun them 5-1. "Then we send reinforcements," Torres said. Okonkwo turned back to face them. "How fast can we mobilize?" "The Colonial Defense Fleet? Maybe 3 weeks to get sufficient forces to New Harmony? Too long?" Okonkwo made a decision. "Send the emergency authorization codes to Jupiter Station. Tell Admiral Park to prepare the 7th Fleet for immediate deployment." The room went completely silent. Commander Hassan's eyes widened. "Admiral, the 7th Fleet is classified." "Yes, I know." Okonkwo smiled grimly. "Not anymore. Get me a direct line to the Security Council. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity has really been building." While Earth's political leaders held emergency meetings, the battle for New Harmony reached its peak. The Colonial Defense Force fought bravely. But they were designed for pirate raids and small conflicts, not military-grade warships. The Zarkith raiders were enjoying themselves. They broadcast the battle across Dominion communication channels, just as they had done to other species before. It was meant to be a message. This is what happens to species that don't know their place, Captain. Minjon Park commanded the CDF frigate Harmony's shield. The ship was badly damaged, fires burning on 3 decks, but he refused to surrender. "Target their lead ship," he ordered. "Everything we have left." "Captain, our weapons are barely operational," his tactical officer replied. "Then make them count." Park looked at the view screen, where the massive Zarkith raider loomed. "These people came to our home. They hurt our people. We send a message back." The Harmony's shield fired its last missiles. They struck the raiders' shields and exploded harmlessly. The Zarkith ship responded with a devastating barrage that tore through the frigate's hull. "Evacuate all non-essential personnel," Park ordered calmly as alarms blared. "Transfer helm control to the combat bridge. And someone play me some music. Something from Earth. Something that reminds us why we fight." As the strains of an old Korean folk song played through the damaged ship, Park prepared for one final strike. If he was going to die, he would make them remember it. But then, something changed.
Captain.
The sensor officer shouted. New contacts. Multiple FTL signatures at the edge of the system. Park pulled up the tactical display. His breath caught in his throat. Ships were emerging from faster-than-light travel. Dozens of them. And they were broadcasting human identification codes. "This is Admiral Sarah Okonkwo, commanding Terran Navy's 7th Fleet." A voice came over all channels. "New Harmony, we have you. Colonial Defense Forces, stand down and let us handle this. Zarkith vessels, you have 30 seconds to cease fire and withdraw, or we will consider you hostile." The Zarkith raiders didn't respond. Instead, they turned their weapons toward the new arrivals. Clearly amused by the audacity of these humans, they stopped being amused very quickly. The Terran Navy's 7th Fleet consisted of 47 ships. They didn't look like the vessels humanity had shown the Council. These were different, sleeker, faster, and they moved with a coordination that spoke of extensive training. The lead ship was the TNS Indomitable, a carrier-class vessel commanded by Captain James Park, no relation to the colony administrator. He watched the tactical display with cold calculation. "They're not withdrawing," his weapons officer reported. "Then we engage," Captain Park said simply. "Launch all fighters, coordinate with the destroyer screen, and send a message to the Zarkith raiders in their own language." The message was simple. You should have left when you had the chance. The battle lasted 17 minutes. The Zarkith raiders fought with the confidence of a species that had conquered. 17 worlds. They had powerful shields, devastating weapons, and centuries of combat experience, but they had never fought humans before. The Terran fighters didn't attack in straight lines like Dominion pilots. They swarmed like insects, dozens of small craft, overwhelming targeting systems. Human destroyers didn't stay still and trade shots. They moved constantly, using their superior speed to strike from unexpected angles. And when the Zarkith shields seemed impenetrable, the human ships did something insane. They launched missiles that deliberately detonated against the shields. It's not to break through, but to overload the energy systems. Then, in the split second before the shields recovered, railgun rounds, traveling at a fraction of light speed, punched through the hulls. 2 Zarkith raiders exploded. 2 more took critical damage and began drifting. The remaining 2 finally understood what was happening and tried to flee. Admiral Okonkwo's voice came over the 7th Fleet's command channel. "Let them go. Make sure they can tell the story." Captain Park acknowledged the order, though part of him wanted to finish what the Zarkith had started. But he understood the strategic thinking. The galaxy needed to know what had happened here, as the damaged raiders limped away at sublight speeds. Rescue operations began at New Harmony. The colony had suffered damage, and 300 settlers were dead. Captain Minjin Park of the Harmony Shield had survived, barely, along with most of his crew, back on Earth. The council chamber that had rejected humanity 6 months ago, an emergency session was called. The recording of the battle played on every screen. War Master Throkonel watched in silence. His forearms rigid with tension, the other council members whispered among themselves in confusion and concern. How? Velthari asked. Their ships were primitive. We saw them. Ambassador Chen Wei, who had been invited to observe this emergency session, allowed himself a small smile. You saw what we showed you, he said quietly. The Colonial Defense Force is exactly what it looks like. A militia to protect settlements from pirates. But did you really think a species that fought itself for thousands of years wouldn't prepare for worse? This was a border patrol action, Throkonel growled. A minor incident. Then I suggest you leave it at that, Chen replied, his voice hard now. Because if this becomes a major incident, you'll discover that the 7th Fleet was just the beginning. The council chamber fell silent. The test had been given, and humanity had answered in fire and blood. They mocked humanity, then a single Terran fleet. Burn their armadas ## Part 3. The first lesson where Master Throkonel did not accept defeat gracefully. In the week following the New Harmony incident, he paced his command chamber like a caged predator. His forearms gestured wildly as he reviewed the battle recordings again and again. Luck, he muttered to his officers. They got lucky. Our raiders were unprepared for such aggressive tactics. His second-in-command, a scarred veteran named Krath, was less certain. War Master, they destroyed or disabled 4 of our 6 ships in 17 minutes. That's not luck. That's skill. Throkonel's fists slammed down on the console. They are humans, a species barely out of their own atmosphere. I will not be lectured about their skill. He straightened, making a decision. Prepare the 3rd Armada. 200 ships. We will teach these primates what real military power looks like. The Council has not authorized. Krath began. The Council will thank me when I bring back human surrender documents, Throkonel interrupted. Send the mobilization orders. The Zarka 3rd Armada was a formidable force. 200 warships, including 15 heavy battleships, each one capable of destroying a small moon. They gathered at the edge of Zarketh territory, preparing for what Throkonel called a demonstration of proper military doctrine. Human intelligence picked up the build-up immediately. Admiral Okonkwo called an emergency meeting of her senior staff. 200 ships, Commander Hassan reported, his voice tense. They're staging near the Kepler's Reach system. That's the direct route to New Harmony. What's at Kepler's Reach? General Torres asked. An asteroid field, replied Captain James Park, who had been promoted and brought to Earth for strategic planning. Dense one. Thousands of large asteroids and millions of smaller ones. It's a navigation hazard. Okonkwo studied the star map for a long moment. Then she smiled. No, Captain. It's an opportunity. How fast can we get the 7th Fleet there? 3 days if we push the engines. Do it. And tell our miners in the belt to prepare some special deliveries. 4 days later, the Zarketh 3rd Armada entered the Kepler's Reach system. They found the human fleet waiting in the asteroid field, 47 ships arranged in a defensive formation. Throkonel laughed from his flagship's command throne. They're hiding in the rocks like frightened prey. Admiral Okonkwo, this is War Master Throkonel of the Zarketh Empire. You have one chance to surrender. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Admiral Okonkwo's response was brief. We don't surrender. We adapt. Then you die. Throkonel gestured to his tactical officer. All ships, advance. Standard formation. Sweep them from space. The Zarketh fleet moved forward in perfect military formation. 3 battle lines of capital ships with cruiser escorts on the flanks. It was textbook Dominion naval doctrine. Proven in dozens of wars across centuries, it was also exactly what the humans had planned for. As the Zarketh ships entered the asteroid field, the human vessels scattered. Instead of holding formation and trading shots, like proper warships, they vanished into the massive space rocks, using them for cover. Cowards, Throkonel roared. Find them. Flush them out. The Zarkith ships broke formation, pursuing the human vessels deeper into the asteroid field. Their powerful sensors could track the enemy ships. But the asteroids interfered with targeting locks. Then the trap sprung. Captain Park, commanding the Indomitable from inside a hollowed asteroid, gave the signal. All ships execute Delta pattern. Release the swarms. From the human carriers and destroyers, thousands of small objects launched. At first, the Zarkith thought they were missiles. They activated their point defense systems and prepared their shields. But these weren't ordinary missiles. They were AI-guided drones, each one carrying a mining charge designed to break apart asteroids. And they didn't just fly in straight lines. They learned from each other, coordinating their attacks, adapting to Zarketh's defense patterns in real time. The first wave struck a Zarketh's battleship's shields. The shields held, as expected. But then dozens more drones hit the same spot within seconds of each other. The shields flickered and failed. Mining charges detonated against the hull, tearing through armor that was never designed to resist close-range industrial explosives. "What kind of weapons are these?" Krath shouted from his station. "They're not weapons," Throkonel realized with growing horror. "They're mining tools. They're using mining equipment against us." But the nightmare was just beginning. While the Zarkath fleet focused on the drone swarms, human ships emerged. From the asteroids at high speed, they didn't try to match the enemy's firepower. Instead, they struck fast and retreated. Using the asteroid field like urban guerrillas using city streets, a human destroyer raced past a Zarkith cruiser, launching railgun rounds at point-blank range. The cruiser's shields couldn't compensate for weapons fire at such close proximity. The rounds punched through, destroying the ship's main reactor. The cruiser exploded, sending debris into two nearby ships. "Reform the line," Throkonel ordered. "Establish a defensive perimeter." But reforming was impossible in the chaotic asteroid field. The Zarkith ships couldn't maintain formation without colliding with space rocks. Their superior numbers meant nothing when they couldn't bring their full firepower to bear at once. Meanwhile, the humans fought with a creativity that shocked the Dominion observers watching the battle feeds. One captain detonated a mining charge inside an asteroid, sending massive chunks of rock flying into a Zarkith formation. Another used industrial grappling cables to pull a small asteroid into the path of an enemy battleship, forcing it to waste precious seconds maneuvering. Captain Park coordinated the chaos from the Indomitable. He had studied every human military conflict from the past 1,000 years. Guerrilla warfare. Ambush tactics. Fighting smart instead of fair. "Target the command ships," he ordered. "Take out their coordination, and they'll fall apart." Human fighters, smaller and more maneuverable than anything the Dominion used, swarmed around a Zarkith command cruiser. They didn't carry heavy weapons, but they didn't need to. They painted targets with laser designators, while destroyers fired from hidden positions. The command cruiser took 7 direct hits before its shields failed completely. The 8th hit destroyed its bridge. The battle raged for 6 hours. The Zarketh kept expecting the humans to fight properly, to line up and trade shots like civilized species. But the humans refused to be civilized. They hit and ran. They used the environment as a weapon. They fought like their world depended on it, 'cause it did. When Throkonel finally gave the order to retreat, his third armada had lost 63 ships destroyed and another 47 severely damaged. The humans had lost 8 ships, with 12 more damaged but still operational. But the true damage was to Zarkath Pride. The battle had been broadcast across all Dominion channels, just as Throkonel had wanted. He had wanted the galaxy to see human defeat. Instead, they saw the primitive species outfight one of the Dominion's most feared military forces. In the Council, its chamber on Vexstar Prime, the delegates watched in stunned silence as the recording ended. "How is this possible?" Veltheri asked. His confidence from 6 months ago completely gone. Ambassador Chen Wei, now a permanent observer at council meetings, stood to respond. "It's possible because you made a fundamental mistake. You assumed that young species means weak species. But humanity has been at war with itself since before we built cities. We understand violence. We understand adaptation. We understand that in a real fight, there's no such thing as proper tactics. There's only winning and losing, Counselor. Vesener's crystalline form pulsed with agitation. War Master Throkinol exceeded his authority. This attack was not sanctioned by the Council. Chen replied coldly. But you created the conditions for it. You rejected us. You mocked us. You threatened us. And when your warrior came to test us, we showed him what humans do when threatened. He paused, letting that sink in. Now I have a question for this council. Do you want to continue this path? Because the 7th Fleet is just one of 7, and Earth has many more ships in construction. The chamber erupted in arguing voices, some calling for peace, others for overwhelming response. In the back, Ambassador Lyra of the Keth caught Chen's eye and gave a subtle nod of approval, but Chen wasn't finished. War Master Throkinol, I know you're watching this feed. Here's my message to you directly. Leave us alone, and we'll leave you alone. But if you come for us again, come with everything you have. Because next time, we won't let anyone retreat to tell the story. On his flagship, limping back to Zarkith territory, Throkinol heard those words. His pride burned. His honor demanded satisfaction. And he made a decision that would seal his fate. Contact the Council, he told Krath. Request authorization to deploy the First Armada. All 500 ships. I will crush these humans myself. They mocked humanity. Then a single Terran fleet burned their armadas. Part 4. The Burning Sky, the Galactic. Dominion Council Chamber had never been so divided. For 3 days, the delegates argued about how to respond to the Kepler's Reach disaster. Some called for peace negotiations. Others wanted economic sanctions. But War Master Throkinol demanded war. The honor of the Zarkith Empire has been stained, he declared before the council. I request authorization to deploy the First Armada. 500 ships. The finest warriors in the galaxy. I will lead them personally, and I will make the humans kneel. This is madness, protested Ambassador Lyra. They have already defeated your Third Armada. What makes you think the Third Armada was ambushed by cowards hiding in rocks? Throkinel's voice echoed through the chamber. The First Armada will not make that mistake. We will meet them in open space, where their tricks cannot save them. Counselor Vesener's crystalline form pulsed with uncertainty. And if you fail again, then I will die with honor. Throkinel replied simply. But I will not fail. The humans have 83 ships total. We will bring 500. The mathematics are clear. The vote was close, but it passed. The council authorized the deployment of the Zarketh First Armada, not because they believed in victory, but because they feared what would happen if they appeared weak to the other Dominion species. The illusion of invincibility had to be maintained. Admiral Sarah Okonkwo received the intelligence report in her Earth office. She read it 3 times, making sure she understood correctly. 500 ships, she said quietly to her gathered officers. He's bringing everything. We should evacuate New Harmony, General Torres suggested. Get the civilians out before no. Okonkwo's voice was firm. If we evacuate, we show weakness. The next species will try the same thing, and the next after that. We hold the line here, or we lose everything we fought for. Captain Park studied the star map projected above the conference table. With respect, Admiral, we're outnumbered 6-1. Even with our tactics, those odds are... I know the odds, Captain. Okonkwo stood and walked to the window. Outside, dawn was breaking over Geneva. But the War Master is making a mistake. He thinks this is about ships and weapons. It's not. It's about will. And humanity has never lacked for that. She turned back to face them. We're not going to run. We're not going to hide in asteroid fields this time. We're going to stand and fight at New Harmony. And we're going to show the galaxy what happens when you push humans too far. How? Torres asked. What's the plan? Okonkwo smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. We turn the entire system into a fortress. Get me every engineer, every weapons specialist, and every crazy idea anyone has ever had about system defense. We have 2 weeks before the First Armada arrives. Let's make them count. For 14 days, New Harmony system became a construction site. The colony's orbital stations were reinforced and armed. Railgun platforms were built on the system's 3 moons. Thousands of mines were seeded along predicted approach vectors. Every asteroid large enough to hold a power generator got one, along with weapons, systems, and sensor arrays. But the real work happened in the shipyards. Human engineers, working around the clock, modified the 7th Fleet's ships with new systems. Stronger shields reverse-engineered from captured Zarketh technology. Better reactors. More efficient weapons. And one innovation that no Dominion species had ever considered: shield-breaker warheads designed to be mounted on the front of ships for ramming attacks. "You want us to crash into their ships?" a young engineer asked, incredulous. "Only if necessary," Okonkwo replied. "But I need to know we have the option. Human ships are smaller, faster. If it comes down to it, we trade mass for victory." On the 13th day, the colonists of New Harmony were given a choice. Those who wanted to leave could board transport ships for Earth. About 10,000 chose to go. Mostly families with young children, but 40,000 stayed. They weren't soldiers, but they could man defensive platforms, repair damaged systems, and provide support. Administrator Park addressed them from the colony's central plaza. "No one will judge you for leaving. This isn't your fight," a woman in the crowd shouted back. "This is our home. If you're defending it, so are we." The crowd roared in agreement. Park felt tears in his eyes, but kept his composure. "Then let's give them a welcome they'll never forget." On the 14th day, Zarketh First Armada arrived. 500 ships emerged from FTL at the edge of New Harmony system. They were magnificent and terrifying in equal measure. Massive battleships bristled with weapons. Cruisers and destroyers moved in perfect formation. Fighter carriers held thousands of small craft, and at the center of it all, War Master Throkenel's flagship, the Pride of Empire. A ship so large it had its own gravitational field. Throkenel surveyed the system through his view screen. He saw the human fleet waiting, 83 ships in defensive formation around New Harmony, exactly as his intelligence had predicted. "They stand and face us," he said with satisfaction. "Finally, they fight with honor. This will be a glorious battle." His tactical officer looked nervous. "War Master, our sensors are detecting unusual readings throughout the system. Multiple power sources on asteroids and moons, defensive platforms." Throkenel dismissed. "Irrelevant. Focus on their fleet. That's where the battle will be won." He opened a communication channel to the human forces. "Admiral Okonkwo, this is War Master Throkenel. I offer you one final chance. Surrender your colony. Submit to Dominion authority. I promise your people will be treated fairly." Okonkwo's face appeared on his screen. She looked tired but determined. "War Master, I'll give you the same chance. Turn your fleet around and go home. There's no shame in choosing peace." Throkenel laughed. "From a position of weakness, you speak of peace? Your courage is admirable, but foolish. So be it. All ships, advance. Battle formation Omega. Show these humans how the Zarketh Empire wages war." The First Armada moved forward in 3 massive waves. The first wave consisted of 200 heavy ships meant to break through enemy lines. The second wave would exploit any gaps. The third wave would finish off survivors. It was a strategy that had conquered 17 worlds. It should have worked here too. The battle began with long-range fire. Zarketh, missiles and energy beams lanced across the void. Human point defense systems shot down what they could, but several ships took damage. One human destroyer exploded, overwhelmed by firepower. "Return fire," Okonkwo ordered from her flagship. "Target their front line." Coordinated volleys. The human fleet responded with railgun fire and missiles, but their weapons seemed ineffective against the massive Zarketh shields. Throkenel watched with satisfaction as his ships absorbed the damage easily. "Is this their best?" he asked mockingly. "We will be done before an alarm blared across his bridge." War Master. Multiple launches from the moons. Railgun platforms firing, From New Harmony's 3 moons, hundreds of railgun platforms opened fire simultaneously. Unlike ship-mounted weapons with limited power, these platforms were built on solid ground with massive reactors. Their projectiles traveled faster and hit harder. A Zarkith battleship took 12 direct hits in 3 seconds. Its shields overloaded. The next volley penetrated its hull, causing catastrophic damage. The battleship listed to one side, leaking atmosphere and debris, evasive maneuvers. Throkenal ordered, "Destroy those platforms." But the platforms were dug into the moon's surfaces, heavily armored and shielded. It would take sustained bombardment to destroy them. And while the Zarkith fleet focused on the platforms, the human ship struck. Captain Park, commanding the Indomitable, led a strike force directly at the Zarkith's second wave. All fighters launch. Target their cruiser screen? Thousands of human fighters poured from the carriers. They moved in swarms, just like at Kepler's Reach, overwhelming targeting systems. But this time, they weren't alone. The asteroid defense platforms activated, creating crossfire zones that caught Zarkith ships between multiple firing angles. "This entire system is a weapon," Krath shouted from his station. "They didn't build defenses. They weaponized everything." He was right. Humans had learned from their own history. Earth had dozens of fortress cities, strong points designed to hold against superior forces. They had applied those same principles on a stellar scale. Automated mines exploded among Zarkath formations. Electronic warfare satellites jammed communications and targeting systems. Even small automated ships rammed into enemy vessels. Sacrificing themselves to damage shields and armor, the Zarkath First Armada was fighting an entire star system. And then things got worse. "War Master," the tactical officer's voice shook. "The human ships, their shields are different. Stronger. They're matching our shield strength." Throkenal's eyes widened. "Impossible. They don't have our technology. They do now." Okonkwo's voice came over the communication channel. "We learned from every ship we destroyed. Every piece of debris we recovered. You taught us, War Master. And we're fast learners." The battle became chaos. Human ships with improved shields could now trade fire more effectively. They still couldn't match Zarketh firepower pound for pound, but they didn't need to. They had the entire system supporting them. Captain Park saw an opportunity. A Zarketh command ship was isolated, its escorts dealing with fighter swarms. He made a decision that would become legendary in human military history. Helm full speed toward that command ship. Engineering, divert all power to forward shields. His crew understood immediately. "They were going to ram, Captain. We can still win without," his second officer began. "The crew of the Indomitable has escape pods. That ship doesn't." Park activated the ship-wide intercom. "All hands, this is the captain. Abandoned ship. You have 90 seconds. It's been an honor serving with you." The crew evacuated in record time. Only Park remained on the bridge, manually controlling the ship. The Indomitable accelerated to ramming speed. Its forward shield breaker warhead armed and ready. The Zarkith command ship saw him coming too late. They fired everything they had. The Indomitable's shields held. At the last moment, Park whispered, "For New Harmony." The collision was spectacular. The shieldbreaker warhead detonated on contact, creating a massive energy surge that overwhelmed both ships' shields. The Indomitable crashed into the command ship's hull, penetrating deep into its structure before exploding. The command ship broke apart. Taking its admiral and command staff with it, the destruction of their command ship broke. The Zarkith's second wave's coordination. Human forces pressed the advantage, cutting through the confused enemy formation. Throkenal watched his perfect battle plan fall apart. 60 ships destroyed, 100 more damaged, and the humans were still fighting, still coordinating, still refusing to break. "War Master, we must withdraw," Krath pleaded. "We've lost too much." For a long moment, Throkenal said nothing. Then, quietly sound the retreat. The order went out. The mighty Zarkith First Armada, the pride of the Empire, turned and fled. They left behind wreckage, bodies, and their reputation. In the aftermath, Admiral Okonkwo stood on the observation deck of her damaged flagship. New Harmony still stood. The colony was scarred but intact. The human fleet had lost 23 ships, including the Indomitable, but they had held. "Count the cost," she ordered quietly. The final tally came in. 4,000 human casualties. 23 ships destroyed. But the system remained in human hands. Across the galaxy, every Dominion species watched the recordings in stunned silence. The invincible Zarkath had been broken. Not by superior technology, not by greater numbers, but by human determination and ingenuity. Ambassador Chenwei stood before the council once more. The Zarkath came to prove their superiority. They proved something else instead. They proved that humanity will not kneel. Not now, not ever. What do you want? Counselor Vessioner asked, her light dim with worry. Peace, Chen replied simply. Fair membership in the Dominion. Recognition of our territories. And respect. His voice hardened. But if you choose war instead, know this. New Harmony was humanity defending. If you want to see what humanity attacking looks like, keep pushing. We have 6 more fleets, and we're building more. The council had no response. The age of mocking humanity was over. They mocked humanity. Then a single Terran fleet burned their armadas Part 5. The wait of fire 3 months after the Battle of New Harmony. The galaxy held its breath. The Zarkath First Armada had limped home with barely half its ships intact. War Master Throkanal had been stripped of his rank and exiled in disgrace. But the question remained, would the Dominion accept humanity's victory, or would they escalate? The answer came in the form of an emergency council session. 7 species proposed a resolution, a coalition fleet to address the human threat once and for all. Not just Zarkath, but Valtheri merchant marines, Hive collective war swarms, and 4 other military powers. 2,000 ships total. The largest military deployment in Dominion history, Ambassador Chenwei watched the vote with a heavy heart. It passed 7-5, with the Keith and 4 other minor species voting against. They're going to hit Earth directly, he said, into his secure communication link to Admiral Okonkwo. Not New Harmony. Not the colonies. They want to cut off the head. Okonkwo sat in her office on Luna, Earth's moon. Through the window behind her, the blue-green planet rotated peacefully, unaware of what was coming. How long do we have? She asked. 3 weeks, maybe 4. They need to coordinate that many ships from different fleets. Then we use every second. Okonkwo pulled up her strategic displays. Chen, I need you to buy us time. Diplomacy, negotiations, anything. Make them talk while we prepare. What are you planning? Okonkwo's smile was grim. They think New Harmony was our limit. They haven't seen Earth fight yet. The next 3 weeks were a blur of activity. Every human shipyard worked triple shifts. Engineers pushed experimental technologies into production without proper testing. Military reserves were called up. And on Luna, something unprecedented was being built. Earth's moon had always been humanity's industrial center. Mining operations, manufacturing facilities, research stations. But now, under Okonkwo's direction, it was being transformed into something else entirely. A weapons platform the size of a small world. This is insane, General Torres said, reviewing the construction plans. We're turning Luna into a fortress. Not a fortress, Okonkwo corrected. A fortress is defensive. Luna is going to be offensive. When that coalition fleet arrives, we're going to teach them why you don't threaten Earth. The installations were massive. Railgun batteries that could fire projectiles across planetary distances. Missile silos with thousands of launch tubes. Shield generators powerful enough to protect entire continents. Something new, something. Humanity had been developing in secret. Directed energy weapons using focused solar arrays. Meanwhile, humanity's 7 fleets consolidated around Earth. Not 83 ships this time, but nearly 200, including newly completed vessels that had never seen combat. They were untested, rushed into service, but they were armed and ready. On Mars, the shipyards completed their most ambitious project, the TNS Defiance, a new class of supercarrier twice the size of anything humanity had built before. It carried 300 fighters and enough firepower to challenge a Dominion battleship alone. The Dominion Coalition fleet assembled at the edge of human space. 2,000 ships from 7 species, each one eager to prove their loyalty to the Dominion by humbling the upstart humans. They had learned from Zarketh's mistakes. This time, there would be no clever tactics, no environmental advantages. They would meet the humans in open space and overwhelm them with pure force. Admiral Chen had managed to delay them with diplomatic talks, but eventually, the coalition commander, a Velthari named Sektar, lost patience. "We have talked enough," Sektar declared over the diplomatic channel. "Your species has demonstrated hostility toward the Dominion. We come to restore order. Surrender Earth and your colonies, and your people will be relocated peacefully. Resist, and we will take them by force." Admiral Okonkwo responded from her command center on Luna. "Admiral Sektar, you're making a terrible mistake. We didn't start this conflict. We've only defended ourselves. Turn back now, while you still can. Your threats are empty. Human. You have 200 ships. We have 2,000. The mathematics are clear. You know," Okonkwo said, almost conversationally, "everyone keeps talking about mathematics, numbers, ship counts. But you're all calculating wrong. You're not just attacking our fleet. You're attacking Earth, and Earth has never fallen to an outside force. Not once in our entire history." "There is a first time for everything," Sektar replied. "Coalition fleet, advance." 2,000 ships entered the Sol system, Earth's solar system. They advanced in a massive formation, expecting to encounter the human fleet in the outer system. Instead, they found nothing. No ships, no defenses, just empty space and distant planets. "Where are they?" Sektar demanded. "Admiral, we're detecting power signatures near Earth's moon," his sensor officer reported. "Massive energy readings. I don't understand these signatures. They're unlike anything in our databases. It doesn't matter. Maintain formation. We'll crush whatever defenses they have." The coalition fleet continued its advance. As they crossed Mars orbit, the first human ships appeared. Not the full fleet, just small squadrons that harassed the coalition flanks and then retreated. It seemed like desperation tactics. Then, they entered lunar orbit. And the coalition fleet finally understood what they were facing. Luna's surface was covered in weapons installations. Thousands of them. They all activated at once. The first volley from Luna's railgun batteries was like nothing the Dominion had ever experienced. Hundreds of projectiles, each one moving at a significant fraction of light speed, tore into the coalition's front lines. Shields that had been designed to stop energy weapons were less effective against solid projectiles with that much kinetic energy. 12 ships exploded in the first 30 seconds. "Return fire," Sektar ordered. "Destroy those installations." The coalition fleet's response was devastating. Energy beams and missiles streaked toward Luna's surface. But Earth's moon had been fortified for 3 weeks straight. Installations were armored, shielded, and buried deep beneath the lunar surface. Destroying them would take sustained bombardment. And while the coalition focused on Luna, Earth's fleet appeared. 200 human ships emerged from behind Earth itself, where they had been hiding in the planet's sensor shadow. They were led by the TNS Defiance, and they struck the coalition's flank with everything they had. Captain Sarah Kim, commanding the Defiance, had studied every battle report from New Harmony and Kepler's Reach. She knew human ships couldn't match Dominion vessels one-on-one. But she also knew something the Dominion commanders didn't. "Launch all fighters," she ordered. "Target their command ships and activate the new shields." The Defiance's shields flickered and changed color, turning from blue to a strange golden hue. This was humanity's latest innovation, adaptive shields that automatically adjusted frequency to counter incoming energy weapons. They had reverse-engineered Dominion shield technology and improved it. The coalition ships fired, but their energy beams were far less effective than expected. The human shields held. And while the coalition tried to figure out what was happening, human fighters swarmed their formations. 300 fighters from the Defiance alone, another 500 from smaller carriers. They moved in coordinated patterns, overwhelming point defense systems. They carried something new, shield-penetrating missiles that used quantum tunneling technology. Even Dominion shields couldn't stop them completely. The battle became a three-dimensional nightmare for the coalition. Luna's surface weapons hammered them from below. Earth's fleet struck from the flank, throughout the entire solar system. Automated defense platforms activated, creating overlapping fields of fire. Admiral Sektar realized too late that he wasn't attacking a planet. He was attacking an entire star system that had been turned into a military installation. "This is impossible," he shouted. "How did they build all this?" His tactical officer had the answer. "Admiral, they didn't just build it recently. These installations have been under construction for years. Some of them date back to before first contact with the Dominion." The truth was stunning. Humanity had been preparing for this scenario long before they ever met the Dominion. Every science fiction story, every military simulation, every what-if aliens attack scenario had led to this. Earth's defense infrastructure had been building for generations, was waiting for the day it might be needed. The coalition fleet tried to push forward, but the casualties mounted rapidly. Luna's railguns didn't need to reload like ship weapons. They fired continuously, drawing power directly from massive nuclear reactors buried in the moon's core. The human fleet used their improved shields to close range and engage in brutal knife-fight combat. And then Earth unveiled its final surprise: massive solar arrays that had been orbiting the sun. Collecting energy for decades, rotated into position. They focused collected solar radiation into coherent beams and fired them across the system. The beams struck coalition ships with the power of a small star, burning through shields and armor like paper. "Retreat," Sektar finally ordered, his pride shattered. "All ships, retreat." But retreating was harder than advancing. The human fleet pursued, harrying the coalition forces. Luna kept firing until the enemy ships were out of range, and humanity broadcast every moment across all Dominion channels. Just as the Zarkith had done months ago, the coalition fleet escaped with barely 1,200 ships intact. 800 ships destroyed or captured. Entire formations wiped out. Earth stood untouched, its blue-green surface serene and beautiful. Completely unaware of the battle fought in its orbit. In the aftermath, Admiral Okonkwo stood on Luna's surface. Looking up at Earth through the observation dome, General Torres approached her quietly. "We lost 42 ships," he reported. 8,000 casualties, but we held. "At what cost?" Okonkwo asked softly. "How many Dominion deaths? How many lives ended today because they wouldn't accept us?" "As equals, somewhere around 50,000, based on crew compliments." Okonkwo closed her eyes. The victory felt hollow. Not because they had lost, but because so many had died unnecessarily. "Make sure every name is recorded, theirs and ours. Someone should remember them." On Vexstar Prime, the Galactic Dominion Council convened an emergency session. The chamber was silent as the battle recordings played. The delegates watched in horror as their coalition fleet was systematically dismantled by a species they had dismissed as primitive just months ago. When the recording ended, Counselor Veschner spoke, her crystalline form pulsing with what might have been shame. "We have made a terrible mistake. Not in military tactics, but in judgment. We looked at humanity and saw primitives. We should have seen survivors." Ambassador Chen Wei stood before the council once more. He looked tired. The past months had aged him. "The Dominion Council once told me that humanity needed to catch up to galactic standards. Today I have a question. What standards? The standard of mockery? Of dismissing new species? Of attacking those who dare to defend themselves?" "We offer peace," Veltheri said quickly, his merchant's mind calculating the cost of continued conflict. "Full membership, territorial recognition, trade agreements, and reparations," Chen added firmly. "For new harmony. For the families who lost loved ones. For the 3 months of terror you put our species through." The council agreed to everything. They had no choice. The illusion of Dominion invincibility had been shattered. If they couldn't defeat humanity, what other species might challenge them? The peace treaty was signed 3 weeks later on Luna, with Earth's blue sphere visible through the windows. Humanity gained full Dominion membership, recognition of their territories, and the right to maintain their military forces. But the real change was deeper than treaties. The galaxy had learned that humanity wasn't just another species. They were something different. A species that had fought itself for thousands of years and learned from every conflict. A species that prepared for threats that might never come. A species that would rather die fighting than live kneeling. Admiral Okonkwo attended the signing ceremony. Wearing her dress uniform with 42 new stars pinned to her collar, one for each ship lost defending Earth. As she watched Chen and the Dominion counselors sign the documents, she thought about all the names on the memorial being built on Luna. Captain Park had survived. Rescued from his escape pod after ramming the Zarketh command ship, he stood beside her now, also in dress uniform, his expression solemn. "Do you think this will last?" he asked quietly. "The peace." Okonkwo considered the question. Maybe, or maybe in a few generations, they'll forget what happened here and need another reminder. But for now, our children will grow up in a galaxy that respects humanity. That's worth the cost. A new harmony. The colony had finished rebuilding. Administrator Park dedicated a monument in the central plaza, listing every name of those who had died defending it. At the ceremony, a young girl asked him a question. "Mr. Park, why did they attack us?" He knelt down to her level. "Because they didn't understand us. They thought we were weak because we were new. But they learned something important." "Do you know what that was?" The girl shook her head. "They learned that humanity doesn't measure strength by how long you've been around or how big your ships are. We measure it by what you're willing to fight for. And we'll fight for our homes, our families, and our freedom until the stars themselves go cold." The girl seemed to understand. She looked up at the sky where human patrol ships maintained their watch, smiled. Across the galaxy in 100 different languages, a new phrase entered common usage. When someone wanted to describe fighting against impossible odds, when they wanted to talk about adaptability and determination, when they wanted to explain why you should never underestimate an opponent, they used the same expression. They fought like humans. It was meant as a compliment and a warning, because the galaxy had learned the hard way that humanity might have been young among the stars, but they had been forged in fires that most species couldn't imagine. They had mocked humanity, and humanity had answered with fire and blood and victory. The age of human expansion had begun, not through conquest, but through respect earned at the highest price. And as Earth's fleets patrolled their recognized territories, the rest of the galaxy watched carefully, wondering what this strange, determined species would do next. Admiral Okonkwo stood on Luna. One final time before returning to Earth, she looked at the weapons installations that had saved humanity, at the memorial that honored their fallen, and at Earth hanging in the black sky like a jewel. "We're not conquerors," she said to herself. "We're defenders. But God help anyone who forgets that defending is what we do best." The stars twinkled overhead, full of mysteries and dangers and possibilities, and humanity, bloodied but unbroken, looked up at them with the same determination that had carried them from caves to starships. They had been tested by fire. They had passed, and the galaxy would never underestimate them again.